Hey, this is Robbie from the Orbit, and you're watching one of the very interesting topics we discussed on our latest episode. Online poker has boomed this year, but perhaps we're maybe at a saturation point right now. There's obviously lots of value for players with tons of overlays, but are there enough players competing? Is player money running out? Phil, you're in seat one. You get to lead out. Let's hear from you.
All right. From my perspective, no, I don't think player money is running out. I think we have more players playing than in years past. And while guarantees are not being met like they were recently, it's because guarantees have gotten so high, and it was kind of a reaction to all the new players. But no, we have, I think, cash game traffic year over year is up something like 25%, and MTTs are probably up much more. So I think the players are there, and it's just a matter of, making the right decisions for the poker ecology with those players. But no, I don't think player money is running out.
Okay, interesting. Quick and to the point. Rob, you are next to Eck. Let's hear from you. What do you think?
I think you hear a lot of people talking about the number of players, ecology, and talking about the demise of online poker over the last 8 or 9 years since Black Friday. But I think the biggest enemy of the money running out is regulation. Italians can't play against UK players, American players can't play against the rest of the world. So I think if you factored in regulation and what hadn't happened, you'd see a very different poker landscape now. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely say within the pocket, I would actually disagree with Phil. I'd say within the pockets of players that are allowed to play against each other, where there's ring-fenced liquidity, I'd say the money's running out.
Interesting. And with regard to the overlays, do you think that's going to become more of a thing, or will operators sort of adjust for them?
It depends how. It's like last man standing. So effectively, there's a battle at the moment between the sites, and it's a bit like a game of bluff. Who's going to, because the site that sticks, that's last man standing, is probably going to get the majority of the business going forward. So no, I think there's going to be an end to it when people start to drop out. I certainly can think that party poker have dropped out. Party poker won't do the same type of guarantees and size of series that they've done before, mainly because compliance is hitting party poker probably more than anybody, and regulation is hitting party more than anywhere else. But I guess we're talking about GG and stars here. I guess last man standing wins, which is kind of a tricky situation because they probably both know that. So it's an awkward one, really. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't see them coming to an agreement. So yeah, I guess last man standing wins.
Interesting. Well, the last person to answer on this topic will be a GG pro, GG spokesman. But first, we've got Alex Scott. You're no longer in the industry, so you have a little bit of a removed perspective from this, but of course, relying on a decade and a half of experience here. What are your thoughts on what's currently going on? Are we at a saturation point?
Yeah, it pains me to say, but I've got quite a bleak view on this. And I do think we are at saturation point at the moment. It pains me to say that because long term, I think poker is a really compelling game, and I think there'll always be a place for it. People will always be excited to play some form of poker. And I guess I'll start out by saying that the growth that we've seen this year because of the pandemic, that just shows what's always been possible. If we'd have really marketed well to players, we could have had all of these players all this time, I would say. It's not been hard. People haven't had to try hard to get these people to play online poker during the pandemic. They've come knocking on our door. MPN was closing when the pandemic started, and we still managed to more than double the number of players playing on the MPN. And we were closing. Everyone knew we were closing. They still came anyway. I think, at the point we're at now, we've probably passed the saturation point, and we've certainly seen a peak and sort of a new trough, if you like. The new trough is higher than it was before, but certainly not as high as it was during the peak of the pandemic. But I think the real factor going forward, the reason I think, the reason my view on this is quite bleak is we're about to hit probably the worst recession that we will have ever experienced in our, in 100 years. And that will really impact people's ability to, use their disposable income to play online poker. And that's what I'm worried about. It's difficult enough to get people to spend their money on online poker and not spend it on Netflix, and not just their money, their time as well. They can spend their time watching Netflix. They can spend their time playing video games, which have had billions of dollars invested in them in some cases. So we're competing for the time and money and attention of people, and they're just not going to have as much money and time as they used to have after this pandemic is over and after this recession hits. That's why I'm bleak about it, unfortunately.
So you're saying as far as the saturation point being reached or anything, it's almost irrespective of the industry itself, there are greater factors at play?
Well, yeah, and I can speak to what's happened in the Isle of Man, right? So the Isle of Man is now COVID-free. We've been COVID-free since June, and we've been back to normal since June. And what's happened is that basically as soon as the lockdown restrictions were eased, all the restaurants were full, all the pubs were full. You couldn't get a seat anywhere. Everything is busy. Town has never been as busy as it is now. And that's what will happen when lockdowns ease in other countries as well. The problem is online poker traffic is the exact opposite of going out traffic, right? So to play online poker, people have to stay in. They can't be playing online poker if they're out with their mates enjoying a meal, So the more the social scene recovers, the worse the outlook is for online poker.
It's tough to root for the pandemic, So, Daniel, you've been waiting very patiently. I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Well, to echo what Alex Scott said, and this actually, I had it literally in my notes, like the words that he chose, which was disposable income, and how uniquely tied essentially the global economy is to online poker, right? When the economy is doing well, a lot more people have disposable income that they're going to use for various things, whether it's, games, shopping, or in some cases, poker. The pandemic, we obviously saw a spike across the board. What I thought was most exciting about this year is just the competitive landscape across various sites and lots of different promotions, right? So I think the customer at this point has like the benefit of having so many options. Like Phil Galfond's doing a really great job with these heads-up matches, promoting what he's doing. Party affiliated with the World Poker Tour. You've got Stars doing the World W Coup, and of course, GG. We tied ourselves to the World Series of Poker and stuff like that. So as a customer right now, like it's never been better for you in terms of options. If you don't like one, you're running bad over here, you go try the other one. There's no reason why people shouldn't have accounts at all the different places. And ultimately, when they think promotions are, most beneficial to them or like the games better, they can do that. So I think because of the competition, that bodes well for the future of poker. I think we were at a dangerous point before Party really stepped up. And then, of course, GG came onto the scene where we were just a complete monopoly, right? We had one company who's very, very corporate, making all the decisions and literally have everybody by the cojones, right? And you can do whatever they want because you have no other place to go, right? Well, now you do. So what that does is it leads to more opportunities for players to find more beneficial, situations for them to play. So I root for everyone else to do well. Like I don't want to see, people missing guarantees and then seeing that decrease because I think that ultimately hurts, the availability to customers to, just take advantage of all the great promotions.
So perhaps in that sense, the money is sort of running out. Not enough, new blood coming into the system. As many operators as you have, as many tournaments as you have, there's only so much to go around.
Well, no, I think we're still doing quite well. Rob mentioned a little bit about possibly scaling back at some of the guarantees and a little bit of an arms race, maybe between GG and Stars. And that's okay. That'll all settle to a point where everyone's like, all right, we'll get back to a level that's reasonable. But ultimately, I think there will always be ebbs and flows with poker. And I've been playing the game since I was a teenager. And I remember a very small, simple live example was I played in this private poker club, right? And, the place was booming for a while. And then all of a sudden it sort of trickled. And there was about a month or two where games seemed to be dying, right? Well, because a lot of the bad players went broke. They went away for a while. They came back and you started to have that up and down. I think you're always going to have that because ultimately, if you're a recreational player, you have two issues you need to face. One is the house rake, and two is these pros who kick your ass all the time, right? So every once in a while, you put your money in, poof, goes gone. Maybe you say, I take a little bit break, but ultimately we're seeing people engaging and coming back. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the great amount of competition there is out there.